Calling this meeting to order, Monday, April 14th, 6 p.m. Crosby, do roll call, please.
Jason? Mike is excused. Jake?
Here.
Jim?
Here.
Dale?
Here.
Eric?
Here.
Carolyn? Hold on. Here. Craig is excused. Crosby is here.
All right, thank you. This is an open meeting and it has been posted. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. It's going to go to Carolyn. There's none?
No citizens'
Thank
comments?
you.
Okay.
Okay, up first is our recognitions.
All right, Sarah, where are you? Please come up. So this month we are recognizing Sarah Scheel, and her nominators said, "I'm thrilled to recognize and celebrate Sarah Scheel's exceptional contributions and talent as an HR executive assistant. Her professionalism, dedication, and commitment to supporting the HR team and our organization is as whole as are invaluable. Sarah's ability to manage multiple tasks with precision and efficiency has made a significant impact on our daily operations, from coordinating schedules and handling sensitive information to ensuring smooth and effective communication. She consistently exceeds expectations. Her organizational skills and attention to detail are unmatched, and she handles every challenge with grace and determination. One of the standout qualities she brings to the team is her collaborative nature. She consistently fosters positive relationships with her colleagues and works seamlessly across departments, making it easier for everyone to achieve their shared goals. Her willingness to lend a hand or provide valuable insight to others reflects her team-first mentality and makes her an indispensable part of our success. Additionally, her problem-solving skills have been nothing short of impressive. Time and again, she has demonstrated the ability to think on her feet and find creative, effective solutions to enhance processes and systems within the district. Whether learning new platforms to increase efficiency in our work, like Qualtrics, addressing employee concerns, or handling complex situations, she approaches challenges with a calm and strategic mindset, ensuring that obstacles are overcome. Sarah has also demonstrated versatility in filling in for various roles when needed, whether stepping in to support the HR team during busy times, assisting with administrative duties outside her typical scope, or managing tasks beyond her regular responsibilities. She consistently rises to the occasion. Her adaptability ensures that our operations continue to run smoothly regardless of the situation. Sarah is funny, kind, relatable, smart, and a hard worker. We appreciate you and are incredibly lucky to have you as part of our team. Thank you for your outstanding work and for continually contributing to a positive and productive work environment. Your efforts help move us forward as a team and create a culture of excellence. Once again, Sarah, thank you for all you do. We look forward to your continued success with us.
Thank you. And great support from the DO staff back there. It's awesome. Okay, up next we have citizens' comments, but we do not have any, so we are going to move right on to student reports. We are going to have a little flip of the schools, if you don't mind, please. We're going to have Rolling Hills up first. They have a scheduling conflict.
Come on up, guys.
You're not nervous, are you, Zoe? You're not nervous, are you?
Okay.
You're not nervous, are you? And just make sure this mic is really close to your mouth, okay?
Parents, if you guys want to come to the front, you guys can take pictures head on. Go ahead.
You can come right up here and just have it kneel down if you like, or behind.
Or get a reflection.
Whatever. Call me bald?
Arlo?
All right, we're ready for you.
Hi, this is Eva and Liv. From Student Council, here to talk.
About the amazing things at Rolling Hills.
Contrapt Wisconsin is STEM Forward's 6th through 8th grade school contraption competition. A contraption accomplishes a simple task in the most complicated, fun way possible, like a Rube Goldberg machine.
This year's task is to feed your pet in 14 to 20 steps. These are some of the beginning stages of our contraptions. We have had 2 teams win awards. Last year, all of our 6th grade teams finished in top 13 out of 45, mostly 7th and 8th grade teams.
Last year's task was to roll a dice. Here's an example video of our 4th place finished machine. It landed on a...
Hello, I'm Olivia from 6th grade, a student council representative. Our library is amazing. This year, we got a new 3D printer. Students got an opportunity to make a 3D printed object on a website called Tinkercad. In our library, we have a variety of books for all ages. Every year, we have a March Madness book bracket for the whole school to participate in. Each class reads short stories and vote on a winner. This year, the book Moo-Hoo won. So far, we have checked out 20,082 books. Here are some of our 3D printed objects. Thank you, and here are my favorite books.
Hello, this is
Jocelyn.
and Zoe. We are Student Council Executive Board members back in action, here to tell you about our reading rumble here within the Mukwonago School District.
This is when 4th through 6th grade teams participate in reading a list of books, which at the end of the year, they participate in a Kahoot, asking questions about what they read.
It is an activity that can teach students to help collaborate with others and use teamwork.
Zoe actually participated this year. Zoe, what's your favorite book?
Ooh, I really love Ben Yokodama and the Cookie of Doom.
I didn't participate, but I love Out of My Mind, so I think I will love the sequel, Out of My Heart.
Jesse, I think we really need to tell them the most fun and exciting part of this. The top groups from each school will compete again against the others that won from the other schools. Really fun.
Rolling Hills participated in Battle of the Books, something similar to Reading Rumble, for 15 years.
Plus, this year we have 30 teams and 107 students participating in the Reading Rumble. We are also here to inform you about Rolling Hills Student Council and what we do.
We recently had our all-school family game night. This is when Student Council hosted a game night in our gym and learning lab.
We had activities like our rock wall,
Giant Guess Who,
card games,
Giant Jenga,
cubits,
Brain Builders,
and the game 24.
The people that came had so much fun.
I will never forget how much the night entertained me. There was such a good turnout, we decided that we will probably do it again.
Yay!
Hi, this is Arlo and Max to tell you about the art show. The art show is a chance to show off the art skills of Rolling Hills.
Miss Crow is our art teacher, and she selects a theme, and we get to paint or draw the artwork to put on display. This year is the theme food.
Hi, my name is Max, and fifth grade made a cake that has a shadow inspired by Wayne Thiebaud, who uses the color blue to create shadows instead of using black. Everybody in the school has their art displayed. Each grade does a different type of project. Some use pastels, clay, and other methods. We're inviting you to our art show and hope you come tomorrow from 5 to 7 at our school. Hope you're hungry because we have a spaghetti dinner too.
We are also here to tell you about our PTO. Our PTO supports our school with some awesome opportunities. In January, families have a chance to win a prize a day raffle to support our school. During the book fair, the PTO gives every student a free book.
We have the book fair during parent and grandparent lunch week. Also, former RATS students can apply to the scholarship program. Lastly, this year we are having a color run, all thanks to our amazing PTO.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was a great job. Next up is Section Elementary School.
I feel like we're competing them. We're like competing them against each other.
Hello, welcome.
Hi.
You can begin whenever you are ready.
You want to come up here? Come on.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for allowing us this opportunity to share with you all the wonderful events that has happened at Section Elementary these past few months.
And give us an opportunity to share with you what is yet to come.
All of us are student council members at Section. I'm Addie Sear, and I'm in 5th grade.
I'm Lexi Nelson. I'm in 6th grade.
I'm Elliot Pullman, and I'm in 5th grade.
And I'm Aurora Webb in 6th grade. Let me take you back to February. And during this week of February 10th through 13th, we celebrated our bus drivers. Each day that week, we started with announcements about what it takes to be a bus driver and reminders about how to be safe while riding a bus.
The week ended with something to say or do to show appreciation for our drivers.
The students signed cards, and the drivers were given little gifts each day during that week as a small token of gratitude from our students.
Towards the end of the month, section students had the option of participating in a project fair. This is an event where students can choose a topic that interests them and share all the knowledge they know about their topic. Some students share by creating a poster board, displays, models of their items, or pictures of their experiment. Other students and classes have the opportunity to visit and explore the wonderful projects their peers have created, gaining inspiration and learning from each other's ideas and presentations.
On our last day of February, section took their annual staff versus 6th grade basketball game. The 6th graders who participated on the school team took on the staff.
It was an hour of cheering and entertainment as the 6th grade narrowly beat the staff. But don't worry, the 6th graders will be ready to win again when the 6th grade and the staff battle out on the last day of school at the staff versus 6th grade softball game.
We started the month of March with celebrating all of our Hawks that demonstrated positive behavior. Those Hawks were rewarded with a games day the first Friday afternoon of their month. Students could bring age-appropriate games or use a game that their homeroom teacher had in their class.
PBIS kicked off Trimester 3 with an assembly. Students who were chosen to be Hawks of the Month for Trimester 2 got to participate in relay games in front of the school. Trimester 3 traits that we will be focusing on from March to May are perseverance, honesty and integrity, and having self-control and positive attitude.
All students who display these traits do not have any major behaviors or less than that specified amount of minors per grade level get to participate in different reward options at the end of the school year. This year, students get to choose from a dance party, outdoor games, technology activities, or art activities.
During the week of March 10th to 14th, students were allowed to enjoy sandwiches with someone special during lunch.
Or donuts with someone special before school started. After having their special someone over for lunch or breakfast, students had a photo booth set up to take pictures. They could visit the book fair with their special person or pick a balloon for a staff lift-me-up.
Together with the PTG and help of several of our student council members, we were able to help make this a successful event, inviting roughly 800 plus visitors into our school.
In conjunction with a special persons week during the week of March 10th through 14th, we celebrating reading at our school. Each day we had a theme day that went along with a reading and dress up.
From Reading is Everywhere, and the students were encouraged to read a book about a place and wear clothing with places on it, to Reading is Madness, where students were encouraged to read a book about sports and encouraged to wear something with their favorite sports team.
Each day was designed to make reading come to life. During the week, students visited the book fair featuring a vast amount of books and other items related to literature. And as we begin to wind down our final stretch of the school year, we have a few more events to look forward to. Like many other exciting events at Section, we have an event made specifically for 6th grade advanced math group. This helps build communication skills, group problem solving, engineering, and creative skills. This Contrapt competition is a competition that accomplishes a simple task in the most complicated and fun way. This year's theme is feeding a pet. For Section, we have 3 teams representing us. I'm included in one of these 3 groups. It is a fun, new, exciting experience for many.
Friday, May 16th is High Interest Day. High Interest Day is a student-centered event where learners will have the opportunity to choose from a selection of presenters in order to experience something new and interesting. We are looking forward to learning in these sessions like mini golf, sewing, sponge painting, learning about different animals, AM towing, and other professions. We really enjoy exploring these topics and appreciate the community and how they volunteer the time.
Our all-school event at the end of the year is our Section Extravaganza, a day that is high energy, fun-filled for all of our students. It is a time that we celebrate all of our accomplishments as a school and look forward to the start of summer.
And on the final day of school in the morning, the staff will take on the 6th grade in the annual staff versus 6th grade softball event. The entire school comes out to cheer during the game. Yearbooks are signed and final farewell is given to our 6th graders.
Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Great job. Thanks again to our 2 schools. Moving on to our presentations, Parkview Middle School project update.
So Sean and Chris and Clint and Kurt, if you guys wouldn't mind coming up to the table there. Back in November, we passed a referendum to renovate and do a substantial addition at Parkview. We have been working, while there's not much visual work that's been done on the site at all. You might have seen some surveyors there, traffic study folks. Behind the scenes and in meetings, we've been working to design that new school within the scope of the budget to meet the goals of the project. So we've got the team here tonight to walk through the presentation and answer any questions that the board may have.
And I don't know how we follow up what we just saw at all.
Right?
I'm Chris Sager. I'm not in school, but I do work for Bray Architects.
Kurt Wiebelaus, owner's rep for the district. I used to be on staff as a facility director here, so now operating as the owner's rep for the school district.
Sean Cullen with JP Cullen. We're construction manager.
And Clint Sully with Bray Architects.
So I'm going to just go through a little bit of where we're at in schedule right now. We did move through SD, so schematic design. That is really looking at the program and verifying everything with our CPT team, going through user group meetings, making sure we have the right spaces in the right location. So that has been accomplished. We're now into design development. We're about a week into that. That's where we're going to start really getting our engineers involved and moving into the CD phase where we will create the documents that Cullen is going to use to build off of. So that's where we're at right now in that green section in DD. You want to move on? So this is an image of the site plan that we plan to move forward with. This is in front of the village right now, so we will have probably some tweaks and changes along the way, but you can really see this starting to shape up. We have an entrance off of Veterans Way to the north that will probably have a stoplight. That will be your main entrance for visitor parking, parent drop-off in the morning, and pick up in the evening. And then off of Rochester, we will have an event staff parking, but also the bus parking. So we really are separating those two areas on the site to make sure there's a lot more safety than you have currently. We do have parking lots really all around the building, which is great. So we will have an event entrance to the south. The main entrance to the building is really to the north off of that drop-off. And then we do have a bus entrance that may also be used for the cafeteria space at night when you guys have musical events and things like that. So there's really a good spread of parking around. You can get all the way around with an emergency vehicle. So that's something that we wanted to make sure we had. And then we are redoing the track in the rear, in the south of the building, along with a couple of throwing events. So you can see the renovation is the yellow portion. The new building is the blue portion. Probably not a lot different than you saw during the referendum, but the interior of the building is much different than you remember. We are still doing a 3-story portion to the east of the building, and that's where all the classroom areas will be. So on this first floor plan, we're going to move to. Yeah. Okay. Does this work? Oh, so oops.
So I think, are you trying to get the laser to work?
Yeah. Is it the bottom?
Yep, yeah, that trigger on the bottom side.
Okay, thank you. So as I mentioned before, we do have several entrances. This is really the main entrance here. There is a nice straight concourse between the main entrance and the athletic entrance to the south. All of your core academics are really going to be on this east side of the building. So really more of the public events are on the west side and a lot of the core academics on the east side. So we do have a 3-station gymnasium in the center, main office right at the secure entry, and then support services for the students on the other side of that main entry. Special ed just to the left of the office area, and then a large cafeteria with stage that will be new. So this is really the line of the existing building right there. That existing building is really going to be support spaces, kitchen with tech ed spaces, a new wrestling and multi-purpose room here, music to the south, along with a fitness room. So that's really the main area on the first floor. If we want to move to the second floor, similar setup with the core academics to the east of this. The main library, which will be above the main entrance, really kind of a double height space. So this whole lobby is going to be a tall space, a lot of daylight coming through. We do have some classrooms here above the office area. We do also have a track around the gymnasium, and part of that track comes actually into the gymnasium, which I think will be nice. So you'll be able to actually view sports from up on that track at times. And if we want to go to the third floor. And then this is the third floor. Again, similar core academic spaces. So really keeping those students together on one side of the building, We haven't decided yet who's going to be where, but it's probably 6th, 7th, and 8th from bottom to top. So we talked a lot about, I had the pleasure of helping design the high school when that was built. So we wanted a really timeless and warm set of materials for this project. So you can see we're really in the more warm tones. We've got some wood tones. We're using natural stone. And then we've got a lot of masonry on the project. Next slide. So some of the exterior views that we're going to be showing you, starting with number 1, moving around the building to the south and back to the west. This is a view from the corner of Rochester and Veterans. So really seeing kind of that seating element that we're going to have as you cross over the intersection, and that in the flag area, and that really points you to the new cafeteria space that you can see in the distance. Some of that existing building still with that 1-story area, and then you can see really the main entrance a little further away. So this is a view of that cafeteria space. Again, that's a double height space. A lot of daylight coming into that space. The use of stone at some of those main really important areas of the building. So you're seeing some of that stone here and at the main entrance. This main entrance, if we go to the next slide. This is the main entrance to the school. So we are starting to see that 3-story portion of the classroom addition and a stair next to that double height library, which really is above that main entrance into the office area. And we do have stone at all of those main entrances to the building. So wayfinding, I think, is going to be very simple. All of them have canopies as well going into the main entrances. And that wood look all the way around, flanking those entrances to bring warmth to that main entrance. Next slide. This is a view looking west towards the 3-story spaces. This is really, again, where most of your classroom areas are going to be. A lot of the staff will be able to park in this parking lot and walk into the building on this side of the building. So you're really keeping the students, staff a little bit more separate. We are introducing some of that wood look into this elevation as well, and then a multi-brick color similar to what you have on your existing building. That lower brick will match and bring that existing building into, so that it really is going to read together pretty well. This is a view looking north. So this would be the entrance, the athletic entrance in the rear of the building next to that 3-story space. So you'll see the stone again, that same canopy with the wood. Next slide. So this is a view straight on to that main entrance. I think this is going to be a really nice area where you guys, probably more night, some of your night events will happen in this space, but it has a really good connection all the way through the building. So parking is going to be very simple coming to events at night. When we meet with the village, we aren't going to have enough parking initially for what they require, but what they do require is a lot more than you're going to need for this building. So we are asking for a variance from them. We would need 800 spaces if we were to use their current ordinance. And right now I think you have 200 spaces to park at, and we're adding a 6th grade. So we're asking for a variance for them for about 480 spaces. So you're more than doubling what you have now. This is a view looking east at the existing building. So this is where some of your support spaces are going to be on the building. But you're seeing that double height cafeteria space above that building. This is where a lot of the students are going to come in. So we have some bike parking there. This is where the buses are going to drop off so that students enter the building into that large cafeteria space as they move through the building. Another view of the existing building. So we are replacing the windows. And there's some new metal panel going into that existing building and also a new roof. So it will look different than it does now, but we're maintaining a lot of the brick in that building. So that's what we're really trying to match on the other side. So this is a view again of the existing building. You can see the music wing right next to that. It's a little higher ceilings in that area. So those are, that is a single story, but it is a lot higher for the volume of those spaces. Music requires a little bit more volume. And this is just a night shot of that main entrance. So starting to see a little bit of the branding come in at that main entrance, some of the lighting, seeing the warmth at that main entrance as well. That's everything. Does anybody have any questions?
What is going to be the height of those music rooms?
Typically, we try to go about 22 feet to the ceiling where we can. The more volume we have, the less. It's going to be live space still, but the more volume you have, the less you're going to have hearing issues. So a lot of the teachers and students are not going to have that bass that you would have if you were at a much lower space. So it's something that we did at the high school. So I don't know if you've had a chance to be in those music areas, but really helps you with sound and
Absolutely.
quality.
Thank you. Any other questions? Nope. Thank you.
It looks great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right, up next, we have our German presentation.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome and begin whenever you're ready.
So this is going to work for us, right?
So I have it on a PDF, so just tell me
Oh.
when you want the next
Okay.
slide.
We'll do that. Thank you. Oh, go back. Yep. Nope, you're good. So good evening. My name is Ashley Hafman, and I teach German at Parkview Middle School. I am joined tonight by my counterpart, Jude Elliott, who teaches German at Mukwonago High School. And we are here to talk about our German program here in Mukwonago. We first want to thank the board for inviting us to be here tonight and present about our program.
All right. Again, yes, thank you for your time and this opportunity. So for our presentation, it's not too long. We're just going to be, Ashley and I will be highlighting enrollment history since our respective employments began here in the district, as well as the efforts this year towards increasing enrollment and our proposed efforts for upcoming school years and the tentative timelines that would go towards the implementation of those.
Click. So I will start. I've been employed here since 2022. My first year here, I had one section of German 1, and that was the year that I proposed a new course. We had a course called Germanic Cultures, and upon my hire, I was shown that I could not teach that course as it was written by my predecessor before me. So I proposed Intro to German, since we had an Intro to Spanish class, but not an Intro to German. That was approved by you all for the following school year. 2023 to 2024, I had another section of German 1 and one section of Intro to German. And then on the far right, this is my current year. I had one section of German 1 and two sections of Intro to German. Currently at PVMS, these are some of the things I have implemented since my hire here. The first and probably one of the most important is correcting misinformation about German and its value. Throughout my time as a German teacher, I have heard many times that German is a useless language, and I think it's first important to address that German does have its benefits. There's a lot of values. I'm going to be showing some handouts that we have created, that we have implemented and used in our starting this year to kind of change that narrative. I've also had a strong presence during National Foreign Language Week. This is a week that is a national celebration across the United States. that we do activities with our students at Parkview. This year I created a sign for my students to create. It's in that bottom left-hand corner where they were able to make a sign and hang it on their locker that shows their pride in their learning of German. Additionally, we've also had a strong presence during Parkview's open house and course information night. The two handouts that I have for you are the images that you are seeing on the right-hand side and in the middle. This is just our way to kind of not only showcase our languages that we offer here in Mukwonago, but also really show that German does have its benefits and there's a lot of uses beyond just learning it in the classroom. I've also collaborated with many German teachers in Southeast Wisconsin to find ways to engage students in learning, sustainability of a program, promotion, and program growth. My biggest collaboration was with a prior colleague of mine in the Elmbrook School District. My last year in Elmbrook, she was hired for her first year. Her name is Dr. Kelsey Patillo Miller. She came from UW-Milwaukee. And I was very fortunate to have 1 year with her, but I've really been working as she's been trying to grow the program in Elmbrook. So applying not only my previous knowledge of how to grow a program, but working collaboratively with her as well has been extremely beneficial. I've also collaborated with school counselors at Parkview to support the German language options and information. That kind of goes back to, rectifying that image that German is not valuable, working with them so when students ask them questions, they are able to provide the same answers that I would give them. And then lastly, we currently have a German exchange student at Mukwonago High School. He is the exchange brother of one of my current Intro to German students, so he will be visiting my Intro to German classes in a few weeks. Some goals for growth at Parkview. Just to point out, the goals are listed on the left, and then the tentative timelines are on the right. First and foremost, starting next year, I have the goal of doing some post-World Language Exploratory outreach. World Language Exploratory, or WLEX for short, is our exploratory class that we offer in 7th grade. It gives students the opportunity to learn German and Spanish to hopefully inform their decision of what language they would like to learn in the future. So I hope to do some outreach when students conclude their time with me, as well as reach out to parents as well to see if they have any questions about what their their child's options are for future language learning. I also plan to start a German club next year at Parkview. I also will continue to have exchange students from Germany that are attending MHS to visit my German students at Parkview. So those would be starting again next year. In the 2026 to 2027, I'm hoping to do elementary outreach. This will be in conjunction with MHS, which Judah will elaborate on in the future. I also, once the new school year, the new middle school opens, I would like to do some local German and cultural field trips, such as going to Mader's in Milwaukee to have a German meal, or Kegelsen, which is located in West Allis. There's also the Milwaukee Public Museum European Village for students to visit as well. Additionally, I would also like to take students to the German immersion camp in Bemidji, Minnesota. This is a full immersion camp where students can attend. There is only the target language spoken there. They eat food from those respective cultures, and they learn how to interact with students from other states, other schools who are learning German as well. And then lastly, down the road in tentatively 2028 and 2029, we would also like to plan a community event. This is again in conjunction with MHS, which we will elaborate on soon.
Thanks, Ashley. All right, so at the Mukwonago High School, so this is my second year with the district. I began last year for the 23-24 school year. Last year I had a section of 1, 2 sections of German 2, a section of 3, and then I actually combined German 4 and 5 based on the recommendation of another staff member in the district who had worked closely with the students that I was inheriting, and just based on level suggested that they learn together and differentiate as needed. So that was the decision I made last year. That decision carried over to this year, our 24-25 school year. So they are still combined. However, I did create an A-B curriculum over this past summer so that next year's or this year's 4s, when they're 5s, they would be getting something new, even though they're still in that combined class. There was an increase in German 1, so we went up to 2 sections this year. And then just kind of tentative numbers, again, nothing finalized, but looking at next year. In December, I know the board was requested to see increase in enrollment in the upper levels, as that tends to have drops traditionally. And so this upcoming year, I do have an increase in my German 3, 4, and 5 numbers, which is excellent because that was part of what we were hoping to be able to do. Next slide, please. So currently at MHS, a lot of the things that Ashley has already mentioned, we are doing in conjunction at the middle school, or the high school, excuse me, at MHS. That really big one being correcting that misinformation, letting the counselors know what is available for students when they are learning German, how to use that post-secondary. So we shared those, I shared those flyers and other teaching and informative brochures and whatnot with them prior to enrollment time. We also, during Foreign Language Week, also were putting up those cute little flag posters. Students were slapping them on their lockers, although most don't even know where their locker is in the high school. And so a lot of them just ended up on display outside of my classroom, but a lot of students proudly signed their names after coloring them and let their peers know that they were studying German and excited about it. We also had a strong presence during our high school course information night. I had lots more families and students coming in this year than last year, you know, asking what is the program going to be doing in the future, and so sharing those flyers with them, the ideas I will be sharing with you in a couple slides, all that great stuff. Additionally, one of the initiatives I took this year was providing, or what's the word? Not providing. No, that's anyway. Proctoring. Thank you. Thank you, Brain. That's the word. Proctoring the National German Exam. It's through AATG, American Association of Teachers of German. It's a nationwide exam that students at level 1, 2, 3, and 4 can take. And so this year, as just kind of a trial run, I administered it with my German 3, 4, and 5 students. A number of them did achieve above average recognition. And one of my German 3 students, Miss Erin Johnson, you see pictured there, she was one of 12 in Wisconsin that actually earned gold, meaning she earned 90th or higher percentile on her test, and she reached 91st percentile. So she received honor roll recognition on the AATG website. She got a lovely certificate and gold medal. Additionally, she was then in the running for an interview and additional testing for a scholarship travel opportunity. She did make it to the top 100 for that. Unfortunately, she was not chosen beyond that, but that is an amazing feat. And so I cannot wait to see what she can earn next year. She does have a dinner, I believe, in 2 weeks, honoring her and all the other students that earned awards through this exam. So that's amazing. We're so proud of her, and we've been putting this picture and this accomplishment in social media, the Waukesha Freeman, our Facebook page. It's all getting sent out to that. So it's great opportunity and visuals for our program. Additionally, a lot of the draw to keep students in these upper level German programs is, you know, how is it going to help them post-secondary? And so I am currently in the application process with UWGB for the college credit in high school. I do have to continue working on my master's and take a proficiency exam for that, so that is probably at least 2 years down the road. But I am currently in communications and the process of that right now. Much like Ashley, I have been in communications with other professionals in the area. I have attended some conferences, including ACTFul, big nationwide training in November. I was one of 20 to earn a scholarship grant for that through AATG. And then most recently in February, I went to an immersion weekend for the teachers rather than the students in New Glarus that happens every year, and was able to connect with a number of teachers, not just in South Wisconsin, but also in Northern Illinois. It was the South Wisconsin Northern Illinois chapter, including the colleague of Ashley's. I was able to speak with her as well. I'm also in talks with the department chair of world languages at UWM and have been getting amazing ideas from her. So just tons and tons of ideas flowing, ready to implement. Next, please. Additionally, kind of more extracurricular, MHS, we always do a March Madness bracket, which is for music. And this year, the students were really into it. The final two songs were really, really close. And so on their own initiative, students this year started reaching out to students that are not in German, or at the middle school, so in their younger siblings. They tried to get their classes to vote. So actually over 70 students who were not on my roster participated in this competition, this bracket that really fueled that interest and engagement in German across the schools, which was amazing to see. Additionally, we run a German club 1 to 2 times a month, depending on what else is going on in the school calendar. Lots of cultural movies, food, games, music, all sorts of events, and it is all planned and run by the students themselves, so it is all purely their interest that I just help facilitate. And a number of those students are dually enrolled in my international club, and so they are really just showing their initiative to be these global scholars and global citizens, and I just love it. And again, in December, I did take our students to Chicago for the Chris Kindle Mark that's down there. I took over 40 students. I could not fit any more on the bus, unfortunately, even though there was way more interest than I could fit on the bus. And that's something they ask every year in September. Are we doing the Chicago trip? So another great opportunity for them. We're hoping to maybe get Chicago's Go to Institute involved in future trips and see if we can add some additional activities on that excursion while in Chicago in the future. Thank you. For tentative of the proposed growth, we would love to get a personal exchange going, especially if it's through GAP, which is our German-American Partnership Program. But that does take some time and approval and whatnot. And so in the meantime, I'm looking next year to implement a virtual exchange, so the German-American Virtual Exchange GAVE, that is run through Go to Institute. They provide everything. It comes with built-in curriculum. The students can use their language, and they connect with students of a similar age in Germany, kind of like a pen pal sort of situation, but once or twice through the program, you do a online live feed lesson, which is facilitated by myself and the German teacher in Germany. In conjunction with the middle school, we'd also like to do some elementary outreach and really get that interest going at that younger age. Maybe 1 or 2 of our elementary schools to start with next year. Go to Institute also has a really great program called Spark to provide curriculum and activities and just kind of a outline for that. And then the students, actually, the upper level students would be able to run that, and Ashley and I would just help facilitate with the students. Additionally, I want to continue providing the National German exam. Showed great effort and results from this year, so I can only imagine it going up next year. Additionally, helping the students understand and practice the UW placement exam for those that would consider taking German, staying within the UW system for their post-secondary plans. Until we can get a personal exchange going, I do a lot of promotion for other certified and well-reviewed travel opportunities such as AATG, CIEE, and AFS, which many of our exchange students come through the high school. That's one of the big programs. So far, I have sent students last summer and the previous summer through both AATG and CIEE. So I hope to continue that and push that just school-wide also, because they have programs that aren't just German related. So, and again, additionally, working with UWGB for that CCIHS, potentially for the upper levels, 3, 4, 5, whichever that ends up working best for in our curriculum. And lastly, that community event that we're looking forward to in a couple of years, creating something between the middle school and the high school that we can get community involvement and outreach and really get our program visible and showcasing all the great things that our students are doing. Any questions?
Any questions?
Carolyn?
Thank you.
Carolyn?
I think, Ashley, I think this is on one of your, maybe Jude, actually Jude, I think it was your slides, with German 1. Can you go back to that with the, is that had the percent increases maybe?
That's 7.
I think yes, this was it. What were do you recall the numbers, or does anybody know the numbers for what German 1 was when you had, because you started 23 school year, correct?
Yes. You want the numbers for German 1 in 2023?
Yeah, do you know them?
Yeah, I wrote it down. So the year I started, that 23-24 school year, there were 15 students registered at the beginning of that school year for German 1.
Awesome. How many did we get in the following school year when there was 2 sections?
So then when we added the section, we went up 20 students.
So we were at 35 then?
35, correct. Yep. One class I had 15 students in, and the other class I had 20 in. It was pretty well split.
With those increases for 3, 4, and 5, do you know what the count is versus percent? Because I don't know what our count levels are. I'm just wondering if it was.
So for German 3, there was an increase of, what did I have on there? On the back of my card. German 3 was an increase of 3 students. German 4 was an increase of 1 or 2, depending how you looked at it. I had one student, an exchange student, who kind of joined in a couple weeks into the school year, so if you include her or not. And then she had technically got put into German 5, even though it was a combined class. So then German 5's increase was 2 or 3, depending on if you were counting that exchange student or not.
Okay.
So what are the total numbers for enrollment that we're looking at then for 24, or I'm sorry, for 25, 26? Do we have?
Yep, we have those.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you looking just for the high school or Parkview as well?
For Parkview as well.
Okay.
Like all of them.
So Parkview, we are looking at 25 students for German 1, which has pretty much kind of been the status quo. It's fluctuated. We had 25 my first year, 26 this year. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. 23 my first year, 25 my second year. This year there's 26. Next year will be 25. So that's been pretty status quo. As far as intro, so again, my first year intro was not a class. So my second year, 19 were in intro. This year I have 34 in intro. And then next year will be 24 in intro. So only technically a decrease of 11 students overall.
Okay. And then what about 3, 4, 5?
So German 3, 4, 5. Next year, for German 3, right now the requests are at 14 students, and then German 4 is at 7, and then German 5 is at 5, and so if we run that again as a combined course, would be at that 12.
Okay.
Jason?
How much interest are you guys getting with pursuit for the college credits after German 4 and 5 through the extension programs?
So a lot of my students already in German 3 have started asking, if I go to German 5 or 4, can I get that college credit? And that was not in place when I started, and so I have started to make those steps towards it. But because we do offer that for Spanish 5, it is a pretty high interest of the 3, 4, 5 students, because they want to be able to, if they continue that long with the language, to get that college credit for it. So, yeah, I do have quite a bit of interest.
Is the process pretty straightforward? My son was a German 5 student here at the high school, and it was somewhat muddy at that time.
The program,
right.
the 5 he was in. Yeah, so UWGB, my contact person I've been working with, typically you have to have a master's in the language, and because I do not have a master's in German, I'm currently working on curriculum and instruction. I can still teach it, I just have to take an additional proficiency exam, which the UWGB sets up and all that. And so right now I have done like the official application process of applying for the position to UWGB. Their board goes through it. They set up the exam for myself in probably the next year, and then they work with whoever they need to as far as classes. So I would assume maybe Angela about getting that certification approved and everything like that. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Carolyn, I just want to come back to your question about numbers for specific courses, because I think that this is something that teachers like Jude and Ashley, as well as any teachers who might be watching, right, they pay really close attention to, as they should. But I want to just state that numbers, depending on the time of year, fluctuate. And so I say that because I'm going to be giving a presentation here a little bit later. And when we pull our data, we typically rely on third Friday count. Where are our students the third Friday of the school year? Because things have typically settled down. And so students choose courses in February. Where they eventually land could look very different. And so I think that's just important to keep in mind, because I don't want anybody misinterpreting when we hear, right, like this is how many students requested a course versus this many students became enrolled in the course, because something that we also have to keep in mind is scheduling conflicts. And so something that Jude is very familiar with working at the high school level is we might only run one section of AP chemistry, and that section might end up conflicting with German 3. And students then have to make a choice. Which course do you want to take? Now, luckily, students, right, oftentimes can say you can take German 3 this year and take AP Chemistry the following year. But students have to make a choice. And I think that that's important, because when they make those choices, that does tell us something about, right, what their priorities are. So I just share that because I think, as I was looking right now, my numbers for German 5 say 4 students have selected it, but those numbers were pulled 2 weeks ago versus, right, Jude might have had one more student who in the last, right, week has enrolled, where he's getting up to 5 students have enrolled in German 5. And so I share that because when we fluctuate by 1 or 2 students, I think sometimes it's a narrative that those numbers aren't accurate, but numbers change. The bigger picture that we're looking at, right, is are we growing the program? Are we not growing the program? And then what do we do about that? Side by side to that is when we have courses of 4 students, of 5 students, of 6 students, really anything under 15, we really have to start asking, do we, again, have the staff to employ that, to run those courses? And so Jude spoke to combining, right, courses. Is that an option? And again, when we have those really low numbers, that's what we start to look at. So I just share that context because I think, again, people watch and then we get a little bit caught up in the actual number. And again, it's the program as a whole.
Just a follow up on Rachel there. The one thing that is great about our position in teaching German is that we can really easily do those combined classes. We can differentiate really easily within the classroom with language. It's not like trying to do, geometry and calculus in the same classroom. So that is one benefit to being a world language teacher, and don't mind doing it. So I did it again this year.
And our growth is definitely there. I think it's important to also recognize we've been here less than 3 years collectively together. And I think we can both collectively say things were not great when we both arrived. But I think those numbers, regardless of if they're still below your threshold, showcase the work that we have done. And our ideas are showing you the work we are willing to put in to make this program really, really thriving.
Rachel also made a really great point with when students are faced with a choice, am I going to take AP or am I going to take German? I do not fault students for saying, I'm going to take that AP class and I'm going to get that credit, which is another reason that I'm really pushing to get this CCIHS with UWGB, so then it's a bit more of a fair grounds of, AP Chem versus college credit with German as well. But additionally, that is also what the UW placement exam is for, so that if a student cannot get college credit through me, then I can help ensure that they can get some retroactive credits in college through the placement exam. So I am providing some different opportunities one way or the other.
Crosby, do you have a question?
Yeah. Can we go up to slide 3 for a second, please? Thank you. I don't think this was touched on, but it says, can we talk about this wait list that's kind of at the bottom in the box?
Absolutely. So in the yellow, you can see the stars for 24 and 25. We actually had above 30 students request to enroll in German 1. And the max number of students is 25 with the hope to avoid no more than 30 students in a class. So because the enrollment at that time was exceeding that number, students were offered to switch to Intro to German or to be waitlisted in case a student dropped from German 1, and then they could enroll.
So when it was all said and done, were there students that were still waitlisted, or did everybody get into the class they wanted to get into?
2 students switched to Intro to German. So like I said, even though that exceeded the number for German 1, we do have the alternative of Intro to German. So 2 students elected to do that, and then I believe the other elected not to take another language. Like they didn't continue on the wait list and they didn't switch to Spanish.
Okay, and then I think last time you did this, but I don't know if this happened today, can you differentiate between German 1 and Intro to German?
Absolutely. Yeah, so German 1 is the high school equivalent course. It's all year round. It's for students who are looking to earn that high school credit, and it's run just like German 1 at the high school. With successful completion of German 1, they earn that high school elective credit. So in other words, they have a credit towards graduation already, and that is the route to getting to German 5. If you don't take German 1, the other option is Intro to German. That's a semester-run course. Students take that if they're not quite ready for that high school intensive. They get a dabble of what German 1 is all about, but they don't earn the elective. And then freshmen, they would take German 1. The highest level they would be able to get to would be German 4. So it's just another option because we understand not everybody's ready for that high school intensive course. It can be very rigorous at times, so we like to give students more than one option because, again, we understand not everyone's ready for that high school intensive, but we also don't want them to skip a year of language learning. We want them to be able to have just a brief preview of what German 1 would be like.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Carolyn?
Just had a question about the goals for the upcoming years. When we know the numbers are low for German, why are we waiting to reach out to the elementary schools to start recruiting? I'm just thinking from a recruiting standpoint that I would be out there right out of the gate, like speaking in classes and recruiting these kids in 6th grade to join us.
So Jude will be starting that next year with the German club. I want to establish a German club, and then I will support them the following school year with the elementary outreach as well. So it is starting next school year.
The plan is for high school students to definitely start reaching out next year, and then to have the middle school join or kind of do at another elementary school that the high school,
Divide and
doesn't go to.
conquer.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was just wondering why we hadn't started yet. Just because we hadn't started yet? And it can just be that reason too. But
yeah,
I just didn't know.
think it was just more, at least I can't speak for Ashley, but at the high school level of just really trying to get students on track with their proficiency and making sure they're comfortable and enjoying and wanting to continue, and just making sure we had that interest at the high school. And then that's why next year we were like, hey, let's reach out and get those younger ones, and especially seeing the enthusiasm of the middle school students with our March Madness, and I'm very hopeful elementary schools next year.
I think it's also partially due to we haven't been in the district all that long. This is only my 3rd year, so I've been here 2.5 years. Jude's 1.5 years. So that's why we included those tentative timelines, because those kind of things take time. And I think in order to maintain our rigorous program, I think it kind of does start with that 4-5. We want to ensure that students have that opportunity to reach that higher level. And I think that's important. I think the elementary will certainly come, and we will establish that starting next year for sure. I don't think it's something that we initially thought of, but when we were collaborating to think about some goals, we wanted to also make sure that they were realistic with our timelines, because I think the reality is we can't make this big change overnight. It's something that takes time, and it's important to recognize that, because we entered at a really difficult time, and I think what we have done in our short time is commendable, and we've worked really hard to get to where we are now. Obviously, we still have work to do, but we believe in this program, and we believe that we are the people that can make this happen for Mukwonago.
And just to add on to that, in December's board meeting, it sounded more like the focus was they wanted to see those upper levels raised, so we were focusing more on that rather than the elementary outreach.
Yep.
But yeah,
not that that's not important though,
right?
Because it is.
Oh, can I chime in one more time? Sorry, Carolyn. Can I chime in one more time? So I agree that these two are leading the charge and spearheading the program. I want to, again, make sure that you're not hearing conflicting information when I present big picture system data around scheduling and course information. So, Tom, can you go to slide 7, please? So you're going to hear from me in a little bit that German 1 enrollment across the system is down. And so while you're hearing that German is up in other areas, and that is true, German 1 is down, not by colossal numbers, but a little bit. And so it's not on the slide deck, but in 25-26 at the high school, we are back down to 1 section of German 1. And at the middle school, we're down a few students as well in German 1. And so I'm not saying that to, again, negate any of the presentation that Ashley and Jude have put together. I'm not saying that to, again, they are working their butts off to increase the success of this program. But I also, again, don't want conflicting information between what I'm going to present to you and what you're seeing in this presentation. This presentation is about how they are going to continue to grow their program. But I also think you need to understand like the full scope of the program. And again, when I present, I want to make sure that you're understanding that component. And again, we're not talking about colossal numbers. They didn't see a decrease of 30 plus students, but that did happen. And so I think that that's something that, again, I just don't want you to hear conflicting information.
Any other questions? Jake?
Rachel, and how about 2?
Turn my mic. The only decrease we had was in German 1 by 22 students overall between middle and high school.
Correct.
All the rest maintained or increased.
Carolyn?
With 6th grade joining the middle school, and right now we have WellX for 7th grade, and correct me if I'm wrong, then 7th grade. 8th grade, they have the option then to do German 1 or Spanish 1, or the intro to German or intro to Spanish. And that's kind of based off of, like, I think, as my 7th grader explained it, how much they like it. Kind of like you said, are they going to be on that track to further themselves, or are they more exploratory into the language itself? So they have those, that's their 8th grade option, intro or German 1 or Spanish, either one. With 6th grade coming in, are we now going to be thinking about moving WELX into 6th grade and then providing earlier languages, or have we not given any thought to curriculum yet for that?
We don't have the full middle school program laid out yet. And
Okay.
it's just like you can see in 7th grade, kids get more opportunities than they had in 6th. 6th graders are still going to have required classes that they need to take.
Okay.
So what that looks like in 6th grade has yet to be developed.
Okay.
I think one thing, just for perspective, and the data was not complete. We didn't have the full data set, but we did send out that survey that we talked about in December. And one of the unique things about the survey, there were 518 responses, and we'll have a formal presentation at the end of the month on this. There were 518 responses, but when you look at how the responses, one of the questions was, please rank, what do you believe is most important? Our career in tech ed, families ranked that, the average score on that was 1.87. So of all of the 518 people, the average for tech ed was 1.87. For all other elective areas, they clustered very closely together out of this initial set. Art was 3.3, music was 3.43, physical education was 3.35, and world language was 3.05. So what we're seeing is most of our families are saying the career and tech ed program is what is the biggest priority, the thing that they see the most value. And then they're ranking all the other classes essentially, not classes, course areas, in a similar fashion. And we'll be able to dig into that a little bit more at the end of the month. But as we talk about this conversation, and you'll hear some presentations tonight, as how do we come up with our staffing? Where does that come from course selection? Where does that come from enrollment? What does that mean for budget standpoint? If you are in a pattern of declining enrollment and you see a priority area as far as what do people value the most, what is most important to them, you're going to see more kids cluster into career and tech ed into the future, because we surveyed, I think, 3, 4, 5, 6. You'll see more families in that regard. And then with fewer numbers, you'll see some of those other areas where, we have to start to look at what courses are offered and when they're offered. So that is all going to be part of this, and we'll have more details for you at the end of the month.
Just to build off that, WELX is a required course for 7th grade students. So while there is no design yet for what the middle school would look like, I can personally say I would hope that would continue and move down to 6th grade.
Carol?
Last one, I'm sorry.
Apologize. That's why we're here.
You're going to walk away, I'm going to be like, wait.
You can email us.
For the college credit for German 4 and 5, we do have AP Spanish, or college credit for Spanish, is that
It's through
correct?
UWGB also. It's that college credit in high school for Spanish 5, correct.
Is there an option for our German 4 and 5 students to just take a virtual or online class now where they could still attain the credit? Would it be through Mukwonago, or would it not be through Mukwonago, or how would that work?
They can take it through what's called early college credit now, Start College Now. So yes, they can still take college. They can still earn college credit through the current programming that we have.
Okay.
I don't know anything of the specifics of that curriculum of that program, so I'm not sure how aligned and well it would work where 4-5 currently is, but we do have that opportunity for them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the way that works is through our early college credit program. It is college courses. So they are college level courses. They can take them at any university, either live or online. So we do look at the course descriptions. They are pretty closely aligned, and that is what students will typically do for those courses.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you. Thank you for all your work you put into this.
Of course,
and
thank you for your time.
planning for the
Great
future.
questions.
Much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, up next is consent agenda, approval of the school board meeting minutes of March 17th, 2025. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, that's approved by consent. Moving on to policy. Number 1, policy 2431, 5411.
Yep, so we have a couple of policies that we had an opportunity to look through and draft. Our current interscholastic athletics policy is about a paragraph long and doesn't fully capture what Andy Trudell, what I have taken a look at as far as what is good policy language and what does it promote from an athletic standpoint. So First reading tonight, you can see the language that we have in 2431. You know, capturing what we need to capture as far as what do we value from the program, what do we want the program to do for us, how are we going to interact with the WIAA and their constitution on some things, and then just the behavior expectations that are associated with participating in athletics. So you can see that. Again, it's not up for vote tonight, but first reading this evening. Happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Any questions?
I have a question. So where it talks about we adopt the eligibility standards set by the Constitution of the WIA.
Yep.
Does that mean that we are always going to be in line with their policy? And if they change their policy, do we have to change our policy? Can we eliminate the WIA and just set our own policy so that it is set in stone? Like, how does that work?
In order for our sports teams to move on and compete in the sectional, regional, state competitions, we have to be in line with what the WIA is asking us to do. There are some areas where we can go beyond what the WIA is saying, but generally speaking, they have a minimum number of standards. So for instance, around grades, around number of failing courses, around alcohol, we have to make sure that alcohol, drugs use, and so on and so forth, we have to make sure that we have those things that we are in line with. And then if there's something that we say we want to go beyond that, then we're in a position where we can go beyond that.
Okay. So we're not, I understand like grades and things like that, like we are tied to what the WIA says, but there are certain other areas where we can do what we want regardless of what the WIA says?
We can do that.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
With that, is this one of those areas we can?
We can be in line with what the current guidance came out. They updated their constitution. I want to say a month ago, provided a new guideline in there for us. So we can be in a line with that and go beyond it.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Second policy, 5411. These are new first readings tonight. So when Act 20 was put into place, they require in Act 20 for us to have a promotion policy in place, retention and promotion. So what you see in front of you tonight, 5411, we got the template for that. Angela and her team went through and are making some policy recommendations as a matter of good practice, and then to be in compliance with this, the requirements of Act 20.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
The next one, we have a stack of policies that we had come forward back in March. Those are on the agenda. If there are no questions on those, we will agendize them for action at the end of April, so on the 28th.
Any questions on that? Thank you.
And then the final item that we wanted to talk about or just bring some ideas forward. So next at the 28th, on the 28th, the board will do a couple of things. First, the board will reorganize at that time. So there'll be a vote for president, vice president, clerk, treasurer, and the board at that meeting will also then adopt the calendar of board meetings. And so we put two options came forward. We have a couple of meetings a month, or a couple of months a year, where our normal cadence is a committee of the whole meeting on the second Monday and a board meeting on the fourth Monday of the month. We have a couple of months where, due to holidays, we go the second and the third. So we have what we would call just our traditional calendar, where in May we would have a 1 week gap. In June we would have two. We would have one school board meeting in July. In August, we would have two meetings. We have the option in August of doing the annual meeting at that time, which we'd like to consider as an option for us. In September, our meetings would be back-to-back, again, given the calendar. In October, we would have 2 weeks. In December, we would have 2 weeks. Or I'm sorry, in November, we would have 2 weeks. But sometimes in November, we only have 1 week between, again, when the Thanksgiving week comes around. In December, due to the Christmas holiday, we have 1 week in between meetings. January 2, February 2, March sometimes goes down to a 1 week gap between meetings, and then April. So we're proposing all of our meetings go on the 2nd and the 3rd as an option. We're not requesting that, but just want the board to consider it. It would allow for, I think, greater continuity month by month, just based off of when our traditional holidays fall, which are usually at the ends of the month. So just discussion, something to think about over the next couple of weeks, and then we will come forward with recommendations and an opportunity to vote on the 28th.
Okay. Any other questions? No, thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on to personnel topics, course selection and staffing.
All right. So I'm going to just present some high-level overview around where we are, essentially state of the state, around our enrollment, our staffing, and our scheduling. I presented a similar presentation back in February, and so just again wanted to give you an update as to where things are currently. So in terms of our enrollment narrative, so Tom has presented on this on multiple occasions. He's going to present around it again tonight, but as you can see in the blue graph here, we have been facing a pattern of declining enrollment. If you look in the upper right corner, as it currently stands, so the students who are currently registered, bodies in seats, for next year, we are currently projecting a current 199 student decline for the 25-26 school year in comparison to the 24-25 school year. Now again, that's current enrollment, bodies and seats. Between now and the start of the school year, and again, Tom's going to speak to this, we hope to see that number decrease. But right now, today, as it stands, that is what we are projecting.
May I have a question?
Yes.
When do we find out about open enrollment students?
Sure. Open enrollment closes at the end of April. So April 30th, open enrollment closes, and then we'll make decisions on whether we've accepted where they go. Yep. So what is the implication of that? So every student that we have in our, every body in our seats equates to student dollars. When we lose a student, we lose dollars. And so based on those projections, the implication for the 25-26 school year is a projected $1.4 million deficit. So when we are facing a deficit of that magnitude, we have to look at people and programs. We're beyond cutting the low-hanging fruit. And so we have to look at, and I talked about this in my last presentation, how do we continue to be effective while being efficient? And so if we look at some history here, when we look at the total certified and professional staff we have in our system, in 2017, 2018, that school year, we had 365, we're just going to round, professional/certified staff. Even though we decreased in our number of students that we were serving, over the course of those years between 24 now and 25, we increased our certified staff to 409. So it was a total increase of 44, what we call full-time employees, 44 FTE. If we look at where those positions went, 17 were added to the classroom. 16 were added into student services, psychologists, counselors, occupational therapists. 4 were added to district-wide support. So we added a buildings and grounds person. We added a technology support. 6 of those positions were added into the district office. So we added a human resources department. It didn't exist in 2017-18. We added some student learning positions. there's not a person that's going to argue that when those positions were added, they were not warranted. There's not anybody that's going to argue that when you look at this list of positions, these people are not of value to the system. These are all people who are coming to work every day doing the jobs that they were hired to do with the best of intent. And so when I say that we have to look at people and programs, when we look at a $1.4 million deficit, we have to look at where did we add, why did we add, and how do we look at doing things differently. We're not looking at the individual person, right? I'm not looking at Christine and saying, is Christine good at what she does? I'm looking at what is the position and what is the position support in our program. And so as we look at staffing in the midst of a deficit, our staffing priorities remain the same. We are aiming to provide the highest quality educational experience for students. We want to maintain rigorous course offerings. We want to meet the needs of our students. At secondary, you've heard us talk time and time again, we want students in the classes that they want to be in. That is what will promote the highest level of engagement for those students. And then we want to maximize the impact of our employees. So we want teachers teaching in the content areas that they're certified to teach. I don't want a teacher who is certified in math to pick up 50% of their day doing a study hall. That's not impactful. I want a math certified teacher teaching math. And so we want to maximize the impact of those employees. And so we're doing all of this in order to achieve our mission, right? Every student, a graduate. That's what we come back to around every decision that we make. So what is our staffing process? Again, in February, we asked teachers to let us know if they want to retire, if they want to request a transfer. Enrollment is set. So in secondary, our enrollment is essentially set at the end of February after students have selected their courses. So again, you just got done hearing about the German numbers, what students have selected in terms of courses. We try and stick pretty close to that. Again, it varies usually by a few students. We've really developed what we think is a really great process going into 25-26 to avoid what you heard in the past, right? 1,000 course requests. We are not anticipating anything close to that because of the processes that we've since developed. At elementary, staffing really becomes solidified by the end of April, and that, Dale, to your point, comes after we secure open enrollment. Most of our open enrollment seats are happening at the elementary level. That's when students or families really want to come to the district and make that change. We determine the number of sections at elementary and then the courses that are going to run at the secondary, and then we start to assign staff to those sections. If you remember this year, again, when faced with some of the again, budgetary implications we were looking at, we decided to conduct a deep analysis of our programming. And so at the elementary level, we looked at enrollment trends. We looked at where were students historically enrolling? When were they enrolling? Are we going to see an influx of students in June that we need to account for? Do our 4Kers usually wait to register until, you know, August? And so we started to look at that data. At the secondary, we evaluated the past 4 years to look at historical trends, to look at courses that were running significantly below capacity. And capacity was identified as a 75% fill rate. So courses that ran with fewer than 15 students we looked at, and then we looked at courses that had declining or low enrollment. So again, if you ran below that 75% capacity. And we looked at that data because, again, when we're making decisions about should we run a class, right? So Jude talked about he's got a German 3 course that's running with 14 students. That's a decision we have to make, and we make that decision by looking at, well, what does the historical data tell us? Is the historical data telling us that the program is growing, and so we're going to run that? Or is the historical data showing us that the program is declining, and we need to make a harder decision, right? And perhaps not run that program. And so having this historical data helps us to really determine some of those harder decisions. The high school administration met with all of the department chairs in February to share the themes that were uncovered through this data analysis. So high school courses that really stood out to us as having historical trends with declining enrollment, our computer science classes, our German, multivariable calculus, advanced placement government and politics, auto service tech 2, building trades, machine tool, and then project lead the way principles of engineering. And so I presented this already, but just as a reminder, in 2023-24, 33% of our courses at the high school level were running at 75% capacity or below. That is fiscally irresponsible when we are facing a budget deficit. So while we want, again, students in courses that they want to be in, we want to run an academically rigorous environment, we can do that work and still not run classes, 33% of them, at 75% or below. And so in 2024-25, we got a little bit better. We got that to 24% of classes running at 75% capacity. And this year, Stephanie's goal is to get that above the 80% mark. 80% of classes will run at 75% capacity or above. So here is the current data as it stands, and this is where, again, if any of our teachers are watching, I ask that you be, give us a little bit of grace. And again, like I said, these are numbers that can fluctuate. They're not fluctuating by 100, by 200, but they may fluctuate by a few. So this is based on the number of requests. The master schedule at the high school level has not been built. And so again, those scheduling conflicts that might take place, the actual enrollment in the classes, we don't pull that data until the third Friday. By the third Friday in school, that is when kids are in seats. That's when we really get the determiner of this is how many kids are in these courses. But what we can start to see is, are there trends where departments are, again, being impacted more than others? So at the high school level in technical education, between 24 and 25, 25 and 26, we saw a decrease of 148 requests. In German 1, again, Ashley spoke to this, we saw a decrease of 20 requests. At the high school level in art, we saw a decrease of 131 requests. In science, we saw a decrease of 71 requests. And our current projections for elementary, so we ran 90 sections across all of our schools last year. So that means we had, 3 sections of first grade at section, 3 sections of second grade at, I shouldn't use section, that was a bad example. 3 sections of first grade at Clarendon, right? Does that make sense what a section is? This upcoming year, we are anticipating running 88 sections across all of our elementaries for a decrease of 2 sections. Now, we're very fortunate that in most situations, what's the word I'm looking for, Joe? Thank you. We can absorb these losses through attrition, so through retirements, through resignations. But again, we have to be fiscally responsible, and when we don't have students who are enrolling or when we have this decrease in enrollment, we have to respond to that. So with that said, this is not doom and gloom. This is not oh my goodness, the ceiling is falling down. Our district will continue to be high achieving. I look at what is happening at the high school. I look at what is happening at the middle school, our elementaries. Our district is still going to be incredibly high achieving. We have some of the best teachers I have ever seen working with students passionately, working their butts off, again, to prepare every student to be college and career ready. That is not going to change. And we're going to continue to monitor our enrollment. So if we see an increase, if when the schedule is begins to be created at the high school level, if we start to see shifts, we're going to be responsive to that because again, our goal, our priorities around staffing remain the same. And so if adjustments are needed, we will make them. There is nothing black and white about this dance of scheduling and staffing. The goal is to be a student-centered organization, and to do that, we have to be willing to make adjustments. And so again, we have every intention of still being a high-achieving district, and that's not going to change. So what are our next steps? We're going to work with department leaders to prepare curriculum instruction for the upcoming school year. So just like every other year, we'll have this coming year teachers who are going to be told you're teaching a new course or you're teaching a new grade level. and we'll work with them to prepare them to do so. We give healthy stipends for teachers to do that work, and we'll, again, continue to do so. Stephanie and her team are building the master schedule. That is no easy feat. Tomorrow they have our Platform Infinite Campus coming in to help guide that work. And so again, it's a huge undertaking, but that's going to be work that's happening. Our goal is always to communicate student schedules out before they leave us for the year, and that will continue to be our goal. And then we'll continue to plan summer learning and staff development. The focus will continue to be on all of the things, the opportunities, the strengths, the areas that, again, we have to celebrate, because while, again, we're facing some declining enrollment, our district is not immune to that. All of our surrounding area districts are facing this in some way, shape, or form, and just like them, we will, again, continue to be high performing despite that. And I think that that's the narrative that we need to continue to make sure that people hear, because while it can feel like, again, doom and gloom, there's still really great things that are happening here. Questions? Yeah.
Jason?
So I know decisions haven't been made on what, if there's going to be things on the cutting block, but I saw up there multivariate calculus and some of these other technical options. Is there going to be any kind of options for exploring, online options?
Mm-hmm.
Will we be able to look at something like that if those do end up at the chopping block and that's a decision that has to be made?
Absolutely. So anytime that we have students who enroll in a course and then we tell them, hey, we might not have the enrollment to run it, we are having those students meet with our high school counselors to talk about what their options are. And so Angela spoke to our early college credit program. That, I would say, almost all of our upper level high school courses, those courses are also available through that program, Early College Credit Now. And so if we have to tell a student, because those are the courses where you typically see the lower numbers, right? Those higher level, junior, senior, advanced courses. If we have to tell a student we can't run that, we are always meeting with them and giving them what their alternative is to still have that experience and still have access to that learning. And I would say, and again, Angela, correct me if I'm wrong, but 99% of those courses, we have an alternative pathway for them. So we communicate that out with them. We generally, if it's something that's, affecting a bigger population of students, we will send out some sort of a communication to parents to let them know as well. But our high school counselors are fantastic that they're meeting with students to give them what their options are.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
I have a question on tech
Rosamond.
ed. I think this was when I did my very first walkthrough of the high school. We were told that we were turning away students in tech ed and I don't know if that was for very specific classes, if there was general classes, but this is a large decrease in tech ed. So it seems like a little bit of a disconnect to me. So where is that coming from?
Yeah, the tech ed decrease is really across the board. So we have incredibly robust technical education offerings. And sometimes what happens is when you have a span of, like 20 offerings and you see declining enrollment. So the high school is down roughly 100 students. Tom, I'm looking at you to confirm, yes. Roughly. So sometimes what happens is you see there's 20 courses, and it could be 18, but there's 20 courses, and CTE in our district has been something that's, I think it's one of the highlights, of what we offer. But when you see that decrease, what sometimes happens is it's 4 students out of this class, and 5 students out of this class, and 11 students out of this class, and that equates to that total decrease. So it's not necessarily that we see one aspect of the CTE program taking this huge hit. It can sometimes be we offer so much, We offer welding 1, welding 2, welding 3, welding, that students sometimes just, they drop off by a few in each area. I think that our CTE drop is more indicative of the declining enrollment than it is of student interest. And so I think that that's something that I know Dustin is monitoring incredibly closely, and so is his team.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Went on to student learning, science resource for adoption.
Okay. Tonight we have an update for you on the secondary science curriculum process. As we have shared with the board, we have several different curriculum resource pilots happening at the secondary level. That is part of our ongoing curriculum renewal cycle. So tonight, Michelle Ziegler and I are going to present to you the process that we used for the secondary science pilots, as well as the recommendations that we are making for secondary science resources. This is an information item tonight, but we will be bringing this back for action at the April 28th board meeting.
Sorry about that. All right, so anytime we have any sort of course or curricular area that is up for review, we follow this 4-phase process in our districts. You see it on our district website. I've sat before you many times to go through the process that we use. Tonight, Angela and I are here to discuss the research and the pilot years of the science adoption cycle. I don't know who has the clicker.
Nope, I have it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right. So in our research year, I just want to point out that this research started last school year. So that was when Stephanie Blue was the director of student learning. So she began this pilot process with the research with the science department. And so during our research year, we do a lot of standards work. Just like anytime we go up for a course renewal, we look at the standards with the teachers so that when we're looking at resources, the teachers have an idea of exactly what we're looking for based off of the standards that we use. We're using the Wisconsin State Standards for Science. Through that process, we also identify focus standards because as you will see in a few minutes when I show you one of the slides, there are tons and tons of standards for science. And so we sit down with the teams of teachers and we identify essential standards so that we know that we are hitting on the most important things that we know students need to know and be able to do by the end of their grade level. As a team, we also work on the science belief statement. We are still in the process of working through that with our teams. They do a lot of research on what best practices in science instruction are and also review a lot of different resources before finally deciding on which ones to pilot. All right. What you can see on the screen right now is that the science standards span quite a few areas. There are 3 major categories. And so when we were looking for a resource, we were looking for something that would really integrate all of those pieces seamlessly across all of the different units. So the science and engineering practice standards that are listed up there, there's 8 of them. And then the green column, which is the cross-cutting concepts, there's 7 of those standards. We're really looking for those particular standards to weave in to the different domain-specific areas. So for us, we have decided that physical science will be covered in 8th grade. Life science will be covered in 7th grade, and earth science and space science is covered in 6th grade. So all of those domain-specific standards we looked at for each grade level also will then have those science and engineering practices and those cross-cutting concepts. So that's what we were looking for in a resource.
So then moving into this school year, we moved into the 2nd phase of our curriculum renewal cycle, which is the pilot phase. So during this phase, we're really exploring those curricular resources and best practices, really digging into the resources. As Michelle had mentioned, we are looking for that tight match and alignment to the standards, to the rigor that we're looking for, and then best practices in instruction. Through this process, we are really looking closely at the materials. We're trying them out with the students. And then we're continuing, as Michelle said, to work on that standards work and revising our curriculum. So in the area of science at the secondary level, we had several different pilots occurring this year. On the screen, you can see a list of all of the teachers who were involved in the pilots. At the middle school level, we had all of our 7th and 8th grade teachers who were piloting 2 different resources. We are looking at this adoption for 6th through 8th grade. And I think I had shared before with the board that 6th grade was not directly involved in piloting the materials. The reason for this was that when they planned the pilot, the 6th grade teachers were not departmentalized. That decision was made a bit later, and we were a bit far in the planning process, so we were not able to loop them into the pilot. However, those teachers did have the opportunity to look at the materials for the 6th grade level. They met with the reps. They also met with the 7th and 8th grade teachers multiple times to talk about the resources and then work on the curriculum together. Then for the high school, our entire biology team piloted 1 resource, and our chemistry team also piloted 1 resource. So I would like to just take a moment to recognize the work of the pilot teachers. When we are engaging in a pilot, it truly is a heavy lift. There is training that goes along with this. There's a great deal of planning and prepping. They're learning a new resource. There's lots of meetings, and all of this is occurring while they are doing their regular daily teaching duties. So we really want to give a shout out to the pilot teachers and really thank them for their efforts. When we are doing a resource pilot, we start in the research year, and we start by casting a pretty wide net. So on the screen, you can see that even though we have narrowed it down to 2 resources that we are piloting at the middle school level, and then 1 resource each for biology and chemistry, we started with a much wider list. So these were all of the things that were looked at and considered before we got to the pilot process. So again, we're looking at all the things that are available. When we get to the pilot, we want to narrow that down so that we have a manageable pilot. And some of these resources, as we dig into them before piloting with students, some of them we can tell are not going to fit for us in terms of our standards or what we believe is best practice. So this is what we ended up with for our pilot. For the 6th through 8th grade, the 7th and 8th grade teachers piloted 2 different resources. They piloted the Issues in Science by Lab Aids, 1 unit from that resource, and then they also piloted 1 unit from Open Sci-Ed, which was published by Carolina Biological Supply. For our high school pilot, our biology teachers piloted the text Biology by Miller and Levine, which is published by Savvis. And then our chemistry team piloted Basic Chemistry by Timberlake and Timberlake, and that is published by Pearson.
All right, so the timeline for this school year, which was the pilot year, in August, the science pilot teachers came in and they were all trained on the different pilot resources. Then fall and winter, they had additional science pilot training. And then Angela and I created a pilot feedback form that basically is like a look-fors document so that as the teachers were using the resource, they could give it a score in different categories that we felt were important for this adoption. And then we also had science pilot meetings and check-ins with the pilot teachers and the department chairs. And then this spring, Angela and I sat down and we thoroughly reviewed all of the content and shared review notes with the board. From that pilot feedback form, Tom, could you click on the 6-8 one for us? Just want to show you what it looks like. So basically, the teachers are given a scale, and there's different content areas that we ask them to assess. So basically, were the materials aligned to the standards? They were able to leave feedback and then give a score, and you can see that Open Sci-Ed and Lab Aids were side by side so that we could see a comparison. And the teachers were able to kind of see pretty easily then too which ones they felt were the strongest on each of those areas. So there were things on there like, are the activities really hands-on? Do they apply to real world scenarios? Do the kids have access to materials? How friendly are the teacher resources and the student resources? So you can go back to the slides, Tom. And then to the next slide. Yep. So then the strengths for both Open SciEd and Lab Aids, what we did was we took the average score. So anything that was scored a 4 or higher, we considered to be a strength. So what you can see is that both Open SciEd and Lab Aids, the first 4 were areas that they had scored highly, and they had those areas in common. Lab Aids scored slightly higher in each of those areas, but both of them were very well aligned to the standards, had real world connections and inquiry involved, which is super important. They all were activities based and had materials that promote collaboration. On the Lab Aid side, we also found that the materials were fostering learning of skills and concepts, that they were thoughtfully sequenced, and the student and teacher materials were just much friendlier, and the staff appreciated those, and the students appreciated those more in the Lab Aids particular resource. So then as far as the challenges, we looked at scores that were 2 or lower, or 2.5 or 2.8ish, it looks like. Differentiation on both sides. What we did when we sat down with the staff, we asked them, what are the challenges, and then what are the ways that we can overcome those barriers? So for example, differentiation, well, that's like an instructional practice piece that we can pull in differentiation activities and strategies as opposed to relying on the resource to provide those pieces for us. For Open SciEd, obviously you can see on that side that there were areas that they were ranked a little bit lower. Incorporation of technology was a lower area. The technology activities to deepen learning, suggestions for teachers on what kind of technology to use, and the student materials, which was concerning for us as well, is that the student materials were not as friendly as in Lab Aids. And so, again, Lab Aids, we felt we could figure out the differentiation pieces. We felt we could supply supplemental materials if needed, and suggestions for teachers on technology was the other weaker area. We had, for the secondary middle school teachers, we had 5 teachers pilot, and all 5 of them voted for Lab Aids. So you could see that 100% of the teachers were in favor of Lab Aids being the resource that we recommend to the board.
So based on all of that, we are recommending moving forward with the Lab Aids resource. This is a breakdown of the cost for a 6th through 8th grade adoption of this resource. This is a 6-year adoption. And a couple of things just to point out, and I think Michelle kind of touched on these, but this is an incredibly interactive resource. So all of the units have numerous hands-on labs and investigations. And additionally, the units come in standalone units. So it's not one giant textbook that you work from beginning to end, but standalone units, which gives us some flexibility. We can move them around in the scope and sequence of the year. We can also move them around between grade levels if we would choose to change our scope and sequence that we currently have. So that gives us a ton of flexibility, but there is some added cost there. So you can see all of the things that are included with this adoption. Some of the bigger costs are, of course, the books. The class, we are going with class sets of books, so not one book per student, but each classroom would have a set of textbooks. There is one book.
Be quiet out there, please.
There is one book per unit. And with 6th and 7th grade, there are 5 units each. And then with 8th grade, there are 6 units. So that's a total of 16 units. So that's a lot of textbooks. And that's the cost there of $61,000 for the text. Then, of course, there are teacher manuals and different resources. We did receive a number of those gratis from the publisher. That's based on the number of student texts we were purchasing. Another large cost in terms of this adoption is the equipment packages. So I talked about the fact that there's a lot of hands-on labs and investigations. So every single unit has an equipment package, and we need one of those per unit per teacher. The cost of those really vary by unit. These equipment packages include many different things. Some of them are consumable items that we will replace just like we do now with our science experiments, but most of the things in these equipment packages are reusable items. Again, very hands-on, so there's lots of different things in here, electric motors, there's force meters, all kinds of different things that the students will need for those labs. Then there is the cost of the online portal. So students will have access to all of the materials online. Parents can access that as well through their student's login, and the cost there is for a 6-year license. And then the last two costs there, shipping and handling and professional development. There will be 1 day of training for each of the 3 grade levels, and that is the cost for the professional development of $2,500 a day, bringing us to a total of close to $301,000. Again, that's for a 6-year adoption. All right, so moving on to our high school pilots. We used the same process that Michelle outlined. We had the feedback forms. We collected that detailed feedback from all of our pilot teachers, and then we met with them and talked through the strengths, the challenges, and the things that we could do to address the challenges. So these were the strengths that surfaced for our biology pilot. The teachers really liked this resource. It had a very strong alignment to the standards, and it matched the rigor of the standards. One of the key features of this particular biology text is it has something in it called interactivities. This is similar to the lab aids approach, where it uses a phenomena-based approach. So they give the students a real-world problem, and then the students are led through learning projects, lots of inquiry and lots of discourse between the students. So the biology teachers really enjoyed those, as well as did the students. The lessons were very thoughtfully sequenced, and one of the key things that was really important to the teachers is that the text is accessible to the students. Many times at the high school level, especially in the area of science, the text is written more at a college level. And so this text is accessible but still challenging and rigorous for the students. And then finally, there were many additional resources that are available to the teachers and the students through the online portal. Some of the challenges that surfaced here, similarly to the 6th through 8th grade, the differentiation was a little bit of a challenge for the teachers. While there were suggestions in the textbook for differentiation, there were not specific items that were already differentiated, as well as some of the things that were available to them were not customizable. We also had some minor issues with the digital platform. 2 different things. First, some connectivity issues, and then a little bit with navigating the portal. So those are things that we have been working through. It was good to find those out in the pilot so that we could work through and troubleshoot those with our technology department, as well as working directly with the vendor. So overall, just a few challenges that we feel we have solutions to. So our recommendation would be to move forward with adopting this biology text. This is the breakdown of the costs for the biology text. This, again, would be a 6-year adoption. So we would get 6 years of that digital license for the students and the teachers. Again, students would have access to everything online. And then this is for 1 text per student. So that's different than the 6th through 8th grade. At the high school level, we felt it was important that the students had the physical text that they could take home and utilize. So the total for this adoption is $63,694 and some change. And then for the chemistry pilot, We are not recommending moving forward with the textbook that was piloted at this point. Although the text did have a logical sequence, and the teachers really felt that it matched the scope and sequence they were looking for, we really struggled with this pilot. We had difficulty from the very beginning with support from the company and the sales reps. There was a lack of resources that are included with this textbook. Teachers would have expected to see some labs, some note aids, things of that nature. Those did not exist, as well as most of the resources were online only. So our recommendation is to continue with the pilot into next year. I will work with the chemistry team to look at some different resources that we can bring in to pilot for next year.
All right, so on April 3rd, we had a community viewing night where we invited everyone to come out and look at the resources. We had 11 families attend, and it was nice because I feel like we had a pretty constant flow throughout the evening. Angela and I were there, and the feedback was positive. The parents that I spoke to really liked the fact that, specifically with lab aids, that the activities are really hands-on. I know I'm a mom in the district as well, and so as I was reading this, I was really excited that my daughter will get to do some of the things because I never got to do labs as a kid. So I'm really excited that the kids get to do things like that to learn. The content is engaging, and I had a really great conversation with a couple parents about how much they appreciate the rigor that we bring in Mukwonago.
All right, so next steps for the science curriculum process. As I stated at the beginning, we will bring this back for board approval at the April 28th meeting. If that is approved, then we would move forward with purchasing the resources, make sure that we have all of those in hand by summer so that we can provide the appropriate training for all of the teachers this summer. We would also be engaging in some summer curriculum writing work, aligning our curriculum to those resources. And then, as I stated before, I would be working with the chemistry team to look at some new resources to pilot for next year and planning what that pilot will entail. Questions?
Carolyn?
Could you flip back to the slide for, I believe it was 7th and 8th grade that had the cost breakdown?
Yep. Oops.
Awesome. I know you mentioned with high school the importance of having 7th and 8th grade bringing books home. I have a 7th grader who I'm currently keeping her math book safe for her. I have to keep it on this one shelf so it doesn't get destroyed by my other kids. But she doesn't use it, but she can't bring it back. So I have to watch it. So that's math right now. He's a wonderful teacher, so I'm definitely not knocking the teacher. She's doing really good in the class. So that's nothing against that. Science, I've never seen a book come home. So I'm wondering, what are our cost savings if we just do a digital versus actually purchasing these books that these parents have to keep safe, or these kids throw in their locker on day 1 and pull out of their locker on June 9th? I used to be a science teacher, so I also didn't, I wrote we did everything out of it. Maybe the kid that went on vacation for a week would use it,
Right.
but if they have access to digital learning, they would just pull the book out there.
So there would obviously be a significant cost savings if you did not have the books at all. The way that the books work is they set up the interactivities that are within there, the labs and the investigations. So I think the science teachers would echo this, that in class, it was important for them to have that physical textbook. They were doing a lot of different activities with it in class. Not as important for them to take that home, but in classes they are working through those labs, having that physical text was kind of a critical piece for them.
So with the digital, if we just chose digital, they would still have access, I'm assuming, to those labs where they would be a printed sheet or print something where we could just print the lab? Would we not have access to that? Because that would be, if we purchased the digital option, knowing that there would be a digital option available, that would be
So the digital option for the text is a digital text. I don't believe it's something that would easily print. It just would be, they would have to have their Chromebook with them, and they would have to flip through it on the Chromebook. So it is something, I mean, we can definitely consider. I could ask the teachers their thoughts on that and bring that back to the next meeting.
Are there separate textbooks and lab books also that are offered, or is it just a textbook? Because they're not writing in said textbook.
Correct.
So they're just looking at the book,
Correct.
like they would look at a Chromebook.
Yep, it just would be navigating multiple screens while trying to do the labs and activities alongside it.
Yeah.
Yep.
What would be the cost savings if we didn't, is that
If you
the
didn't
61?
get any of them, it would be 61,000.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Schwartz?
So, on that same subject, it's one per student for the online portal, which is 1,100 students, but then we have 2,045 books.
Yep. There are multiple books for the units,
Got it.
and there are different amounts of them based on 6th grade class sets and 7th and 8th grade class sets.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that's the difference for the discrepancy there.
Going to the chemistry pilot, not a question, but just a comment. I greatly appreciate that you are willing to reject a curriculum if it does not meet our standards and our teachers' needs instead of just accepting something to accept it. So thank you for doing that.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Just one more.
That one.
Sorry, Carolyn.
Sorry. Going along with the class books, I'm assuming shipping and handling would be the charge for the books and maybe a
Yep.
small portion for the equipment packages.
Correct.
With the equipment packages, things that would be reusable, did they note what those items are? Are they like the Erlenmeyer flask or beakers or stuff that the teachers already have that we don't need, and can we a la carte it?
They're pretty specific items, so I can send you the book that lists all of the different things that are in there. A lot of it is very specific items that I don't think we would be able to source elsewhere. Each of the kits has, for different labs, some of them are like cards that are set up in specific ways for them to conduct these labs. Those are obviously something we would not be able to replicate. There's specific molds. Some of it would easily be able to replicate. I'm just not sure if they have an option for just purchasing pieces of it and what that would look like.
I think it sounds cool. It sounds kind of like you order that like Hello Fresh, where you get the meal kit and it's all there.
Yep.
No, I used to prepare all the labs old school, so that was tough. But yeah, it would be nice to have it all in one. But just wondering if there is an option to be like, we got the equipment, just give us the chemicals.
I can definitely check on that. Other questions?
I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to finance and facility topics.
All right, so here we go. What's first? Let me just peek at the agenda here. First one we have. So Fund 73 OPEB results. I just provide this to you every 3 months. So here we are as we wrapped up the third quarter. The investment interest earnings are at 4.59%, the most recent month in March, and a 5.18% rate of return. So board policy says I report on the board's investments and the information's there. So if you have any questions, let me know. Okay. Next one then we had is the Memorandum of Understanding. So I have an updated MOU. We worked through this. It was revised quite a bit here, but we had our help from Brian Waterman from Bulow Vetter revise this, protect our interests, make sure that it's just aligned. I've reviewed it with the village, with Ron Bittner and others who work in the Mukwonago village so that we can share our fiber optic networks. This is a win-win for the community, for the school district, for the village here. So if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll look to adopt this come 2 weeks from now. Dale, this has been on your agenda then this month at the village level,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes. One thing that does come up, maybe you can address it here as well, is people are concerned about security by sharing lines with the village.
Yeah, so I mean, you're asking me a technical question that I prefer to ask Kelly Kovneski and Eric Kirch in our IT department, but my understanding is there's no chance of information sharing. I couldn't, one way that the village will utilize this when we connect, we had 32 strands of fiber that's laid in the telephone wires, and we essentially give them access to one set of that, which we would never use all 32 strands. I don't even believe we're using half of that amount right now. They can connect and connect to the water tower down here to our east, and then there's some village pumping stations. We could not get access to theirs, and they could not get access to ours.
Because they're separate strands.
Yes.
Correct. Thank you.
The next one that we had was the St. James attendance boundary. St. James has asked us to, I guess just let me back up for a second, just give a little history real quick. Public school districts are, by state law, required to provide transportation to schools, to private schools within our boundaries. So, if there's Lutheran schools, Catholic schools, there's some private schools that we do transport to. Transportation can be a yellow school bus or a parent contract. So if there's a school that maybe only has 6 kids, we wouldn't provide a yellow school bus at a cost of $30,000. The threshold of if the cost of the bus costs on a per student basis more than 150% of the average cost it costs us to transport our regular education students, that's excessive, and then parent contracts are offered. So the current value is about $600 per student. If I just scroll down here, we have 2 Catholic schools, and just bear with me, I need to rotate this here. This is our district map, and we have 2 Catholic schools operating in the area, actually technically 3 right now. Once upon a time it was 4. St. Paul's is in Genesee to the north. It's technically in the Kettle Moraine School District. We have St. Peter's to the south and East Troy. And then we have St. Joe's, which is in Big Bend. St. James, I think they closed down somewhere in the early aughts, 2008, 2009. Do not quote me on that. But we didn't have transportation anymore going to St. James. So the Archdiocese of Wisconsin really oversees all the Catholic schools in this regard, and when St. James went away, St. Joe's attendance boundaries are what you kind of see outlined in the dotted lines there, okay? So it spans into Muskego, into Mukwonago, up into the north there and in the Kettle Moraine area. So we provide transportation to those students. Some of them are getting a yellow school bus where St. Joe's Catholic Church and Christ Lutheran, which is also in Big Bend, we have, I think, 1 or 2 dedicated yellow school buses for those 2 schools, so they combine, they have common start and end times. And then there's other students outside of where that bus can reach, where those students are getting parent contracts. You can see that in our areas to the east and to the west and northwest, there's some unclaimed area. Now that St. Paul's to the north is no longer working or teaching students, St. Peter's, to my understanding, in East Troy, my understanding is that this is they're not going to be operating after this school year. St. James is asking if the rest of the territory in our district can be recognized as their attendance boundary. So I guess I don't know enough about how many students might be attending St. James who live in those areas, but my guess is that it's a handful of families. And then they would likely receive parent contracts. So there just wouldn't, maybe I'm wrong there, but I just don't think there's probably enough that we would have a bus sweep through those areas and deliver those students to St. James. The request from St. James came in on April 3rd. By state law, a parochial school is, I should back up, the Archdiocese of Milwaukee has a superintendent and assistant superintendent, and theirs reached out and said, we are not going to adjust St. Joe's attendance boundary at this time. They're going to leave it as you see today, but if that attendance boundary for St. James and St. Joe's is changed, then we would recognize a part for St. James and a part for St. Joe's. So Obviously, there's some impact there that the Archdiocese has to work out on their own, and then the request will be made for you to consider. Ultimately, you have to recognize these lines and accept them to move forward here. So the deadline for a private school to request attendance boundaries by state statute is April 1st. The request came in April 3rd. It's your call if you want to make this consideration. Otherwise, again, that's your call there. So what the timeline is private schools submit an attendance boundary by April 1st to the public school board. And then by May 15th, they have to submit a roster of students who will likely be attending so that as we plan school bus routes for the following or the upcoming August, September, we can plan accordingly. So this request has been made for the areas that are in our district that aren't belonging to St. Joe's at this time.
Do we get reimbursed from the state?
So we get it's a very, very, very minimal amount of state transportation aid. We get $160,000 for transportation costs. Our costs are about 2.7 for regular education and about another 400,000 or 500,000 when you count in special education routes.
We're talking about like for private schools. If we have a bus for a private school, that just comes out of our funds. We don't get.
Yes. Yep. So it's kind of, I think that's not very well understood by many people, and I don't blame them, right? Like who really studies statute 121 or chapter 121 in state statutes, right? That's public school transportation. But yeah, the public school districts are financially responsible to provide transportation to the private schools.
Mr. Bennett?
Without having the roster, is there any way to project what the cost to the district would be?
I could ask St. James to submit that information to see if they'd be able to give it to us. I could do that. I did not get that information to say how many families are we ultimately talking here. You really got to fill up a school bus to justify the cost, and that's my guesstimate. I could be totally wrong about that. I could ask for that information before you make a determination in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Crosby?
So since they missed the deadline, what would happen if we said, hey, sorry, you missed the deadline, try again next year?
The parents who would likely be driving their kids to St. James would not be getting a $600 payment from the school district to provide that transportation. They're basically, if a parent from let's say like in the upper northwest corner of the district there at the top of the map, if they want to attend St. Joe's, they can attend St. Joe's, but we don't have to financially provide yellow school bus transportation or a parent contract. People are free to go where they want. However, like there's certain like reasonable attendance boundaries, right? We're not going to transport students from Big Bend over to Section and vice versa. Like you have an attendance boundary. If you live within that attendance boundary, we'll provide transportation. So when you have two schools of a religious denomination, like they're not, the state law says they can't overlap boundaries. You can't, have buses passing each other going to different Catholic schools or Lutheran schools, what have you. So there has to be an attendance boundary recognized, submitted to you, and then recognized and approved by you.
Carolyn?
I was going to ask that. So that doesn't mean the attendance boundary doesn't prevent them from going. You can go to whatever school you would want.
Yep.
Catholic school. But that's where we would bus them or volunteer to bus them.
Yes.
So we're in a deficit, or looking at a deficit, and we would be looking at paying parents to drive their kids to the Catholic school of their choice. Is that what we're looking at?
If you look at the map outside the dotted lines, like the lower left, that's green, that's Rolling Hills area. The orange, that's Prairie View Elementary. If you were to recognize all those areas not claimed by St. Joe's, anybody living in those areas and attending St. James would be getting likely a parent contract from the district to give them transportation.
Because it probably wouldn't be enough students to bring a bus out that way.
Yeah, that's, again, my assumption. I think it's probably reasonably probable.
Yeah.
But we are already paying for everybody that's inside the dotted line.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I'd say like in the purple areas, there's a yellow school bus. Everything that's pink and blue, pink is Clarendon, blue is Section. If those people are attending St. Joe's, they're probably on a parent contract. Okay.
So the dotted line that's outside of the red line, we're still paying to get those children in schools?
No, so that like, so up in like that pointed area there, up that's in the white, I'm just gonna hover my mouse there real quick. We're not paying for this. These students live in Kettle Moraine. This is the St. Joe's attendance boundary that Kettle Moraine also recognizes, but then Kettle Moraine would be on the hook for that. We only transport students in our boundaries.
Gotcha.
But yeah, even like out here to the east, then this is the Muskego Norway School District, and that is in their district, but that's the attendance boundary for St. Joe's. It spans multiple public school districts.
Any other questions for that? Okay, thank you.
Do we know the enrollment for St. James for the upcoming year? Like, is the enrollment for the whole school 20 students and we don't?
No, it's more than that. I mean, it's this is hard for me to say. I mean, they run 2K or 3K through 8th grade, I believe. I want to say it's like 130-ish.
Is it operating this year? Or is
Yes, it's operating.
It was already
Yep.
operating for the
And
school
please,
year?
I don't want anyone to quote me on that. I believe that's what the number is.
Gotcha.
All right, thank you, Tom.
Yes. All right, the next up is then just prepayment of referendum debt. We're going to, as we finalize our financing plan here, I'll just go down to the second page of the attachment. We're looking to defease, which is another word for prepaid debt of $3 million. So some of the details are down in the lower left-hand corner. The savings by doing this is we would be trimming off, and let me make this a little bit bigger, $384,000 of savings of avoiding interest payments. So this is our debt schedule before prepayment. This is our debt schedule after prepayment. This is $1.785 million. And then this orange box here is $2.855 million. You can see that we would eliminate this blue payment. That $1.785 million is gone. And then this $2.855 million is reduced down to $1.48 million. So we continue to prepay debt, which has always been our strategy. With your permission, we will defease approximately $3 million, and we could take action next Thursday. And this ultimately leads into all the financing plans that we've talked about at Parkview Middle School. Any questions?
Any questions?
Okay. All right, designation of a newspaper and bank depository. So every year we have to identify the official newspaper and bank of the district. We are looking to just continue to do what we've always done, which is to recognize Citizens Bank and the local government investment pool as our official depositories. The LGIP is the local government investment pools, where a lot of villages, towns, school districts can safely deposit their money, and it's known for having good rates of return and having liquidity. So when you need to withdraw your money, it's available for you. Citizens Bank has a deal with us where we've had this in place for decades, where whatever rate of returns the LGIP pays, they pay us 0.1% more. So it's the same liquidity access. We have a great relationship with Citizens Bank, but we recognize 2 bank accounts for flexibility. We do the vast majority of the Citizens Bank. So we're looking to recognize our official bank depository as Citizens Bank and the LGIP, and then our official newspaper as the Waukesha Freeman. All right, with no questions then, I'm going to kind of just take a quick opportunity to go through just a couple slides here. Update on the budget. Some of this information was shared in January. This kind of plays off of the information we've heard tonight, so I'm just going to quickly go through, why we're where we are and where we kind of started, where we are now. So we had to make some large budget assumptions as we build out the 25-26 budget. Again, we're trying to guess how many students will we have on the third Friday count and how much funding will we receive from the state biennial budget going forward. So there's 4 major pieces of assumptions we're going to make. 87% of our funding is going to be dependent on the third Friday full-time equivalent count of students that reside in our district and the amount of money we get. So the revenue limit formula, this year we got $11,325 per student. And then there's per pupil categorical aid, which is $742 per student. So that roughly $12,000 per student represents 87% of all of our funding. We could certainly talk about, you know, how much do we raise through student fees or how much do we charge for tickets at the football game, but by and large, those two things are the lifeblood of the school district, so the assumptions we use is really going to impact the budget. So first thing, we have to assume how many students will we have on the third Friday count. Third Friday full-time equivalent is not butts and seats. It's not the count of students like physically in your classroom, because that, you know, you're looking at students who open and roll in, and that's a different funding amount. That 87% is really a count of students in our district boundaries that live in our district boundaries and attend our public schools, okay? So while we have more students in each of those school years than you see on the screen, that is our membership, students that live in our district boundaries and attend public schools. We have to guess what we're going to have next year. We did 5 projections, so the the orange is 4,343 students. That was our third Friday FTE this past fall, or the current fall, that from 2024 September. As we look at those blue shorter boxes there, that's projecting through 5 statistical methods of what will we look like next year. And you can kind of see we have a range of values that each of those statistical methods projects. Ultimately, what we have then is we start with our 4,343 students this fall. We subtract out this year's senior class, which is very large, of 438 kids. We're projecting growth of how many move-ins will come into our district. And Carolyn, as we've talked here over the last couple of months, you know, home sales are kind of slow for whatever reason. They have been. Interest borrowing rates. What's that?
Not with the Simon Loan team.
That's, yeah, caveat.
Sorry. I love it.
Way to plug it in there, Carolyn. I like it. All right, so we're projecting a growth of 69 students from current 5K through 11th grade. As they come back next year as 1st grade through 12th grade, we'll have about 69 students, and that's, you know, a guess. That's a statistical guess as to how we'll look. And then when we add in next year's cohort of 5K students, that puts us at 4,215 students, which is a minus 128. We adopted a minus one. We just kind of round that number for round purposes of minus 125. As we heard earlier, if we took a third Friday count today, we're at minus 199. My hope here is that we have more move-ins in April, May, June, July, and August, where that minus 199 approaches what we have. I think that our assumption was a good one, you know, and time will tell. You know, all we can do is take a best guess right now. Eric, did you have something? You good? Okay. So yeah, what we assumed back in January is different from where we are today. It's different from where we will be September 20th. All right, so that's the student full-time equivalent assumption. Now we have to, again, guess what's the state biennial budget going to provide for us. Here you can see the history of how much money we got per student going back to the beginning of the revenue limit era. So back in 93, 94, we received $5,320 per student, which was lowest in the state at that time. All the way through 2008, 9, we increased with inflation. That was written in state statute and state law, where whatever the CPI increases, that's how much student funding would increase. So as inflation went up, our funding went up. That was kind of cut off and changed with minimal increases throughout, you know, 2010 to recent times. And then we finally received a bump here in 23, 24, and again in 24, 25. Current state law, as it's written today, would provide a $325 increase now for like the next 400 years. Whether that remains to be constitutionally upheld, time will tell. But we're waiting on the state biennial budget to ultimately tell us that. We adopted here a $325 increase, which I think is not bullish. It's reasonable. And again, this is the year-by-year increase of the revenue limit. All right. Grew with inflation. Act 10 drew it back, and minimal increases since. So there's the assumptions we ultimately made, minus 125 full-time equivalent, plus 325 on the revenue limit. That's $742 of per pupil categorical aid is not going to grow, and then special education reimbursements would slightly go up. With those assumptions, we have a $1.4 million deficit going into next year. And the goal that we adopted here was to build a balanced budget for next school year. So I know we've had some new school board members who have joined us since we did some of this work. So this is just an opportunity to kind of circle it back to where we started and what path we're on.
Is the 1.4, is that based on 125 or 199?
125.
Thank you.
So one thing I'll say about that, that's a great question then, is that in school funding, without going too far down the economic explanation, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version here. Whether we're at minus 125 or minus 199, the funding will stay the same. Because we're in a pattern of declining enrollment, is that we would receive a something called an exemption where the state says, Mukwonago, you're losing students, so here's your funding for the year, but this amount here is your last time you're getting this. So between third Friday, September 2025 and third Friday, September 2026, make plans to lose this declining enrollment exemption. So it's I think a good safety mechanism to say, hey, kind of whether if we were at a minus 125, and that's actually what happened, we'd have a $900,000 funding source that would expire the following school year. So we kind of be in the same boat we're in right now until enrollment flips. You know, more move-ins occur. Simon Loans, you know, really takes off, and we bring more students to the district.
Or Dale keeps approving apartments.
Hey.
There's some houses going on too, right? There's something for everyone, perhaps. Okay. Any questions about that information? All right. So then the last thing that I had then is just our health insurance renewal. So I will just, the short of it is that we adopted two, in addition to the assumptions we had earlier that I just reviewed with you, we adopted two more assumptions. CPI is defined as 2.95%. So our teachers union in particular can bargain up to that amount on base wages, okay? So we adopted a 2.95% salary increase or compensation increase. We will look to actually settle that over the coming months, you know, with board permission. But we approved a salary compensation increase of 2.95 and a health insurance increase of 10%. Medical inflation is really its own animal. It grows as it grows. And we're doing everything we can to really minimize that rate of growth. In years past, we were facing 35% increases. You know, to think that we would find a health plan that simply would not grow, that those costs would be fully contained, I think is just not realistic. So we do our best to manage that. What we're doing right now is asking for a 10.7% rate increase. So you can see the full cost of the family plan goes from $22,600 to $25,000. The total increase is a $2,400 increase. You can see the single cost there on the right-hand side. Employees pay 12% of this amount. So any employee currently on the family plan has this cost deducted from their paychecks in a tax-free manner through payroll deductions. This money here then each year goes into a medical liability account where we pay our medical bills. The district pays the other 88% of that. So ultimately, you can see the employer and employee increase there. The information that supports this comes from our partners, Megan Zimmerman at Marsh McLennan Agency, and I'm simply just going to point out one slide here. Some of the mathematics that goes into this is, you know, actuarially speaking, so this is using our actual experiences, assumptions on medical inflation. You can see that they're projecting $6.7 million in expected claims costs, $1.5 million in fixed costs, for a total cost of $8.2 million, which is a 10.7% funding increase from this year to next year. This column here is what we're looking at right now. It's this orange. We have multiple bids that took place here. What we have here then is you can kind of see a little bit more of a breakdown of what those fixed costs are. It's our stop loss insurance at $800,000. It's working with our pharmacy benefits manager, so on and so forth. So that gives you an idea there. That 10.7% rate increase, ultimately, when you look at this chart here, it tells us this is, again, a best guess. 52% of all funding scenarios, this $8.2 million or this 10.7% increase will cover us in 52% of scenarios. In some scenarios, we might find ourselves overfunding ourselves. In some scenarios, we might not have enough. We're financially doing very good right now, but it's important to kind of keep your eyes forward, acknowledge medical inflation, and to make sure that we have enough money set aside so that if we do have a terrible year, we're okay. We're currently on that path right now. I wish the increase was less, but I recommend that we go with this as we move forward into next year. We have it in the budget right now as we move forward. And as we move forward, building a balanced budget, I believe we'll be able to do exactly that, even with this increase. It's my hope that in years to come, when we do this next year, we're into the single digits and we're able to say the reserve is strong, we're positioned well, and we, again, can get to those single digits. I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but that's, I think, the path that we're on.
Any questions? So to say, I had an employee reach out about the clinic and just raved about the clinic. I guess she went there for the first time last week, and she had nothing but great things to say. So thank you.
I want to defer all of that to Becky Halverson and her team at the clinic. That's them. We picked a good one in her. And I like to say she's a Mukwonago graduate who benefited from all the science education she had when she was a student here. So,
awesome.
Yeah, job well done by everyone. It's paying off now.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to action items, hires, retirements, and resignations.
All right. We have not had any contracts offered so far for this year, well, for this month for this year. But we do have 2 resignations, Michael Johnson, who is a business teacher at the high school, and John Leonard, who is one of our RISE interventionist teachers at the high school, both of those effective at the end of this year. And then we have 2 notices of retirement, Becky Bretza, who is a library technology specialist at Big Bend Elementary, and Terry Lorenz, who is an early childhood special education teacher at Clarendon Elementary.
I make a motion that we approve the resignations and retirements.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Up next is executive session. According to Wisconsin Statute 19.85, we will be discussing employee compensation, confer with legal counsel on litigation, and personnel matters. We'll take a 5-minute break. Thank you.
Make a motion.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Need a motion first. I motion to move into executive session.
Second. We have a motion and second. Crosby, do roll call, please.
Jason.
Yes.
Jake.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Dale.
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
Carolyn.
Yes.
Crosby, yes.
All right, we'll take a 5-minute break. Calling us back into session on Monday, the 14th at 9:22 p.m. We are going to take action from what was discussed in closed session.
I'd like to make a motion that to recommend preliminary non-renewal of 3 certified teaching positions based on declining enrollment and budgetary constraints impacting staffing allocations for the 2025-2026 school year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries. And take a motion to close the open session.
Make a motion that we close open session.
Second.
Roll call, please.
We had that second, please.
He can have it.
Okay, Jason.
Throw him a bone.
Jason,
Yes.
Jake,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Carolyn,